For years, Overlord fans have repeated the same phrase. Ainz is invincible. And honestly, after everything we've seen in the anime, it's hard to disagree. He defeated Shaltir, wiped out entire armies by himself, effortlessly crushed legendary adventurers, and turned Nazarick into the most powerful force in the New World. But there's one problem. The light novels reveal something that many fans overlook. Ainz is not the most dangerous being that has ever existed in that world. In fact, there is substantial evidence suggesting that several entities could pose a genuine threat to the ruler of Nazarick. And one of them may be far stronger than most people realize. So the question is there anyone capable of defeating Ainz? And if there is, who would it be? Before looking for possible winners, we need to eliminate some popular names. Because many characters are frequently mentioned by fans, yet realistically stand no chance at all. Gazef Stronov is a perfect example. Even though he was considered the kingdom's greatest warrior, the gap between him and Ainz was absurd. The outcome became painfully obvious during the Katsa Plains massacre. Gazef wasn't even able to pose a real threat. The same applies to Brain Unglaus. Despite all of his growth throughout the story, he remains bound by human limitations. Evil Eye is another name that often appears in these discussions. She's powerful by New World standards. But against a level 100 player equipped with divine class items? The difference is nearly impossible to overcome. Then there's perhaps the most interesting case of all, Zeshi Zetsumii. For years, fans believed she would become one of the greatest threats in the series. But when her true power was finally revealed, it became clear that she simply doesn't belong in the same league as Nazarick's monsters. In other words, most of the well-known characters in Overlord simply cannot defeat Ainz. So who's left? The most obvious answer is Shaltir Bloodfallen. And this isn't a theory. It actually happened. She fought Ainz in a full-scale battle. But there's one important detail many people forget. Ainz entered that fight fully prepared. He studied every one of her abilities. He selected specific equipment. He used rare consumable items. He developed strategies long before the battle began. Even then, victory wasn't easy. Several times throughout the fight, Shaltir pushed Ainz into genuinely dangerous situations. And that reveals something important. When we talk about characters capable of defeating Ainz, we're talking about opponents who can compete at his level. And Shaltir proved that such a group exists. But she still isn't the final answer. Because there may be someone even more terrifying inside Nazarick itself. Rubedo. Perhaps the most mysterious character in the entire series. Even after numerous light novel volumes, we still know remarkably little about her. But what we do know is enough to raise serious questions. Multiple statements throughout the story suggest that Rubedo is the strongest creation within Nazarick. Stronger than Shaltir. Stronger than Cositus. Stronger than Albedo. Stronger than any other floor guardian. What's even more interesting is that Ainz himself treats Rubedo with caution. And that's unusual. Very unusual. Normally, Ainz understands the limits of Nazarick's NPCs better than anyone. When the ruler of Nazarick is that careful around a particular individual, it's difficult to ignore what that implies. But there's one problem. Rubedo belongs to Nazarick. She's not an enemy. So we still haven't found someone outside the Great Tomb who can defeat Ainz. Or have we? There is one group that receives completely different treatment from Ainz. The true Dragon Lords. Whenever Ainz gathers information about them, his attitude changes immediately. He stops underestimating. He stops taking risks. And he begins analyzing every possible detail. The reason is simple. The Dragon Lords possess wild magic. A power system that doesn't operate under the exact same rules as Yggdrasil. And that changes everything. Ainz's greatest advantage has always been his complete mastery of game mechanics. But when the rules themselves change, that advantage becomes less reliable. And no Dragon Lord attracts more attention than the Platinum Dragon Lord. Many viewers believe they've already seen his true power. They haven't. The armor that fought Pandora's actor wasn't his real body. It was merely a proxy. Yet even that encounter was enough to create uncertainty on both sides. After the battle, both Nazarick and the Dragon Lord began investigating each other. Neither side walked away completely confident. And that's incredibly rare in Overlord. Normally, Ainz ends conflicts with a massive strategic advantage. The Platinum Dragon Lord is one of the very few characters who immediately earned Ainz's respect. And that alone places him among the most dangerous candidates. But there may be an even greater threat. Long before Ainz arrived in the New World, other Yggdrasil players appeared there. And some of them were unbelievably powerful. The 8 Greed Kings are the greatest example. These players defeated Dragon Lords, reshaped world history, changed the balance of power across entire continents, and left behind artifacts capable of influencing future generations. The problem? We don't know exactly how strong they truly were. But there is a frightening possibility. Some of them may have surpassed Momonga himself. And if a player of that caliber appeared today, Nazarick would likely face its greatest challenge since arriving in the New World. And there is something that could make that challenge even worse. World items. The most dangerous treasures in Yggdrasil. And the story has already demonstrated their terrifying potential. A world item was responsible for controlling Shaltir, a level 100 guardian regarded as one of Nazarick's strongest combatants. That means even the most powerful beings are not completely safe. With the right item, an entire battle can change instantly. That's exactly why Ainz treats these artifacts as strategic treasures. Because he understands something very few characters do. Sometimes the right equipment is more dangerous than an entire army. After examining all the available evidence, the answer becomes clear. Yes, there are characters capable of defeating Ainz. But that list is far smaller than most people imagine. The strongest candidates are Rubedo, Platinum Dragon Lord, other elite true Dragon Lords, players comparable to the 8 Greed Kings, exceptionally dangerous world item users. The most important detail is that none of them would have a guaranteed victory. Because defeating Ainz isn't simply about surpassing his level. It's about overcoming his preparation, his intelligence, his experience, his knowledge, his resources, and most importantly, his ability to turn every battle into a carefully calculated plan. The light novels make one thing very clear. Ainz is not invincible. But he's also far more than just another overpowered character. There are beings capable of threatening him. There are artifacts capable of surprising him. There are enemies he genuinely respects. Yet so far, nobody has definitively proven that they can bring down the ruler of Nazarick. And perhaps that's exactly what makes this debate so fascinating. Because the real question isn't simply who can defeat Ainz. The real question is, who could defeat him before he finds a way to win first? And in your opinion, which candidate has the best chance of defeating Ainz? Rubedo, the Platinum Dragon Lord, or an unknown Yggdrasil player?